Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to see what is array and what is an object in TypeScript and how to define the types for an array and also to an object explicitly. So before we check those things, I'd like to tell you that in the previous video, whatever we typed using the keyword known as let has been compiled as var in the JavaScript, right? So let us first check how to compile the let keyword or whatever we have typed inside the TypeScript exactly as the same in JavaScript. So for that, I'm going to first type this command such as tsc space hyphen hyphen init. So this will initialize the TypeScript and create a TypeScript config file for us. So inside that, if we just check, we could see a lot of settings available for TypeScript. So if we just see in the TypeScript config file, there is a key value pair in the name of target and the value as ES 2016. If I just try to change this as ES5, then the older version of JavaScript will be compiled whenever we are going to type in the TypeScript file. But if we just want to change to the latest version, then we need to assign either ES 2016 or the latest, that is ES 2023. So here I'm going to change it to ES 2023, and then we're going to change a few more settings in the tsconfig file so that we can compile the TypeScript as per the requirement of ours into TypeScript. We need to change a few more settings to compile the TypeScript into JavaScript as per the requirement. And those settings are, first, I'm going to change the root directory. Before that, I'm just going to uncomment it and change the root directory as /src. And before that, I'm just going to create a src folder over here. And I'm going to assign or just move this index.ts inside the source directory. And also, I'm going to create another folder in the name of build. So in whatever projects that we are creating in React or Next.js, this is the kind of project tree that we have in all the projects that we create. So likewise, I'm going to create the same project tree over here and assign the files inside the directories. And I'm going to move this index.html inside the build directory. So yeah, after that, I'm going to delete this index.js. And now, if we come over here, the root directory is assigned to /src, which means whatever the TypeScript file that we are going to create inside the source directory will be compiled and saved over here. But we don't want to save the index.ts or the compiled JavaScript file inside the source directory itself. We want all the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS file inside the build directory. So to do that, I'm going to change the out directory as well. So if I just come over here, we could see that there is an out directory setting over here, and I'm going to uncomment it as well. And I'm going to change it into ./build/js. So this will just create a JS folder inside the build directory and save all the JavaScript files inside it. And not just that, if I just come over here, after this, let me save first. Yeah, if I just come over here and try to compile it once again, like by using the command tsc space index, ./src /-w. And instead of doing this, you could say first, before that, let me tell you what does this -w means. -w means watch over the changes that we are going to make inside the index.ts file. But here we did not mention index.ts because we're going to watch over the changes that are going to happen inside the source directory itself. So whatever the changes are going to happen inside this source directory will be watched and it will be compiled as a JavaScript and stored inside the build directory. Now, even if I just try to type just tsc space -w, it'll work as the same. So I'm going to just press enter and I'm going to check. Now, if you just come over to the project tree, you can check this. There is a JavaScript folder that has been created inside the build folder. And inside the JavaScript folder, the compiled JavaScript file has been saved. So inside this index.js, we could see that it is using useStrict method to compile the JavaScript. And then whatever we have typed over here with the keyword let or the const has been stored or has been compiled in the same format in JavaScript. So to compile the TypeScript into the latest version of JavaScript, we need to first initialize the TypeScript and create a TypeScript config file. Only then we can compile it to the latest version of JavaScript. Now, one more thing I would like to tell you all, that is, if I just try to create one more file inside the source directory, for example, test.ts, it'll immediately compile and give me a new file in the JavaScript folder. That is by using the useStrict mode. And also, even if I try to type something like let or const a equals 10, it'll be compiled inside the test.js and it'll be the same like I said earlier. But what if I try to create the same TS file outside, that is outside the source directory, but inside the root directory? Like for example, if I try to create a root.ts file and see, it is creating or it is compiling the root.ts and creating the JavaScript file inside the root directory itself instead of creating it inside the JavaScript directory that is we have created inside the build directory, right? So to avoid these changes, we need to first go inside the TypeScript config.json and go to the last code line, like over here, and we need to just insert this command or the setting, that is include, and then inside this include we need to mention source. So this way it'll just include only the changes that are made inside the source directory and not anywhere else. Now if I just delete this root.js and then try to, and also if I just delete this root.ts and try to create once again the root.js file, root.ts file, then it won't create any additional file or it won't compile the JavaScript file for the changes that we are making inside the root directory apart from the source directory. All right, now let me delete this root.ts file and also the test.ts and the JS directory also. And let us get back to our code and start learning the arrays and objects in the TypeScript. Similar to JavaScript, arrays can be written down in many different types in TypeScript as well. Let me give some examples before we dive deep into it. Let string array equals Kunal, then Ishan, and Kaushik. This is an array of strings, right? So if I just mouse over on string array, it clearly mentions that it is an array of type string. And if I want to type an array of type numbers, then I can give it as number array equals 1, 50, 15. So this will just tell me that it is an array of type number. So TypeScript clearly checks the value which we have written on the right side of the assignment operator and checks what kind of data has been inserted inside the array. Based on the data that we have provided over here, it just mentions that it is an array of type string or it is an array of type number. We can also write mixed type as well. For example, let mixed data equals open square bracket, Kaushik, and then 25, and then true. This is also possible in TypeScript. If I just mouse over on the mixed data identifier, it just tells me that it can be of either string or number or boolean inside the array. So the values can be written in either of these three data types. But apart from these three data types, any other data type is not allowed. And to write explicitly, if we are going to explicitly mention what kind of data we are going to pass into the array, then we have to first write this empty square brackets, and before that empty square bracket we have to use the union type within the parentheses. So we can explicitly mention it is of array of string union number union boolean. And if I want to push any additional data inside this array, I can even do that by using the push operator of the array, like mix data dot push, and then I can push false. This is totally fine in TypeScript, and TypeScript really allows me to push any type of data that is either string or number or a boolean inside this mixed data type. But what if I want to push this false inside the number array? Then it will throw me an error. See, it just tells me that argument of type boolean is not assignable to parameter of type number, which means the number array is literally an array of numbers inside it. So only the numbers can be added inside the number array and not any other data type. So not just push operator can be accessed, we can even use unshift method or any other method of the array in all these arrays that we have defined over here. We can even use like number or string array dot unshift and try to add something like Rishabh. Then it is totally fine, since we are just trying to add a string inside the string array. So it won't throw any error over here. But here, it will definitely throw an error as it is not a number and it's a boolean type. So let me just remove this. Apart from this, if we want to assign an empty array to an identifier, we can even do it just like the way we do it in JavaScript. For example, let test equals an empty array. This is totally fine in TypeScript as well. But in TypeScript, whatever we are assigning on the right side is going to be assigned as an data type for the identifier, right? So if we just mouse over on test, it just says that it is of type any, because we did not have or we did not mention any value inside this array. So it just assumes that whatever the value that is going to be assigned later inside this array will be of type any. Okay, so for example, if I try to push some value, like for example true, it won't throw me any error. Or even I can try to push a value of a string like drink maybe, then that time also there won't be any error, because the type of this test variable is any. Not just that, we can even try to assign an empty array to an identifier that has a data type annotation which has been mentioned explicitly. For example, let username, and then it has an string or array of string, and then we can even try to give an empty array for this as well. And later, if I just want to add some values to this username, I can do it by using the index value as well, like username of index 0 can be equal to John. This is also valid in TypeScript. And earlier I just mentioned that we can use a method to control the length and also specifically assign a particular data type in a particular position in the array in TypeScript. So that kind of method is known as tuple. Tuple. So let my tuple, and then I'm going to assign the data type as string, then number, and then boolean, and that's it. Now if we just try to mouse over on my tuple, it just tells me that it is an array that has string in the 0th index and then number in the first index and boolean in the second index. So we can add only a specific data type value to a specific index position. If we just try to add more values apart from the one that we have mentioned over here, it will not allow us to do it. For example, if I try to add values like my tuple equals John, and then number maybe of 45, and then false, it will be fine. But if I try to add some more values like the 4th value as an string or even as false or something, then it will throw me an error saying that source has 4 elements but target allows only 3, which means it can be of only 3 values as we have mentioned in the data type and not more than that. Now you might get a question that what if we just try to write a mixed data just like this and try to assign it to my tuple? Let me make clear, it will not allow in that case. Let me try to show why. Just first let me erase this, and then if I try to type my tuple equals mixed data, it'll just throw me an error saying that target requires 3 elements, but the source may have fewer, as mixed data type does not have any length value. It can have even of 0, right? So that's why my tuple cannot be assigned with mixed data, whereas mixed data can have my tuple instead. If I try to assign mixed data, my tuple to mixed data, it will not throw me any error as it is of type string or number or boolean of an array. And also one more thing I just want to remind, that if we want to change the value of John to some number or some number like 45 to some string or boolean, it is not possible in tuple, as we have mentioned explicitly that the index value, that is the 0th index, will be of string and the first index will be of number. So if I try to write my tuple of first index and then try to assign some string, then it will throw me an error saying that the property number 1, that is the first index property, is of number type and it is not of string type. Likewise, we can type objects in TypeScript just like the way we type objects in JavaScript. For example, let movie equals, we can assign an object by using the curly braces, and then the name property will have Top Gun, and then the hero property will be having the value Tom Cruise, and then year as 1986. Oops. Yeah. Now, just like any other variable that in TypeScript has a specific data type, the objects and also the properties of the objects has the specific data type and it cannot be changed later on. For example, if we just mouse over on name, it shows that it is of type string. And if I just hover on the movie, then it'll tell me that it is of type object and has a property name, hero, and then year. And for each and every property, there is a specific data type assigned to it. So now if I just want to type like, or try to update the year of the movie, I can try to do it by saying movie.year equals 2022. That is also totally fine. But if I try to change it as a string, then it'll throw me an error since it is of type number and not type string. And also in objects, we cannot add any other extra properties apart from the one that we have defined over here. If I just try to add another property like movie.sequel equals Top Gun Maverick, then it'll throw me an error saying that the property sequel does not exist on the type name string, hero string, year, number. That is, inside this object, that is the movie object, additional properties such as sequel or any other property is not allowed since we have defined that it can only contain name, hero, and year. But if we want to just update the whole object itself, that is totally possible. Like we can try to update by saying movie equals name and then Harry Potter and then Deathly Hallows and then hero is Daniel Radcliffe and then year as 2010. This is totally fine, but if I just try to add a sequel to it, then this will throw me an error saying that object literal may only have specific known properties and sequel does not exist in existing type. That is, in this object, the sequel property is not there. Also notice this, if I just try to comment any one of these properties, that is, that we have defined inside the movie array, if we just try to comment any one of the property, and yeah, let me remove this first, then we get immediately an error saying that the hero property is required and it is missing in this type. So we cannot add or even miss any property inside the object apart from the one that we have already declared and initialized.